Kia ora and welcome to Divine Appointment. I'm Hannah Seddon and I'm so glad you're here. I believe God is still orchestrating divine appointments every single day. And my prayer is that every story I share will inspire you, strengthen your faith, and help you to see His presence in your life. So let's see where today's story takes us. January 2004. I prayed that prayer with all of my heart, all of my broken heart. Super hopeful from the darkest place I'd ever been in at that point. And then I waited and I waited. And that's when the next divine appointment happened. 3 days later, I'm sitting in my house because that's about as far as I can go. And as I said, I didn't have many friends coming to visit me because I was not the life of the party with Crutches. But there was one friend who came over and she was pretty similar to me. She grew up in a family of faith, but she'd gone in all kinds of different ways, and I'd met her along the way. Well, she decided to come and visit me, and there's not much to do. This is pre-Netflix, by the way, pre-Disney Channel. This is pre-Spotify, probably pre-YouTube even. I had this bookshelf in my little house, in my little room. I had a bookshelf, and on the bookshelf was this book. And I think it was something like Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. Now, someone had given me that book and told me, go through it and answer the questions. There's like 100 questions. And at the end, tally up all the answers. And then it kind of gives you a sense of how you're wired and what your giftings are. And then what you might be able to do in your life. And I was like, oh, cool, thanks. And then proceeded to put it on my shelf. And it sat there, I'm going to say, for years. So this book had been there the whole entire time, right? Sometimes the things that you need, they're right there, but it was the timing. So we start doing the questionnaire, and at the end, it tells you what your spiritual gifts are. And then, even more interesting, it tells you what you could do in life. And so I had a whole lot of even career suggestions. You know, at that moment, I'm sitting in a job that pays well, but I don't love it at all. In fact, I'm dreading. Have you ever felt dread? I'm dreading going back to work. Like it's that heavy. I don't want to go back. I do want to pay my bills, but I don't want to go back to that job. It's like there's something else calling me, but I don't know what it is. I can feel it pulling me, but I don't know what it is, and it's not clear. All I know is it's time to let go of that. It's time to say goodbye to that. But I'm doing the maths and I can't understand what's going to come in that place, what's going to come into place instead of that. So I'm reading these career suggestions for really practical reasons. And as I'm reading through them, one sticks out to me. And it says, social worker. Social worker. Oh, I don't know what that is. What's that? And my friend says, you don't know what a social worker is? I said, no clue. What is it? And she said, you know, they help people to deal with stuff, life things, like if they need a house to live in, or they just got out of prison, or their family's going through issues, or, you know, and I'm like, what? You can help people, like you get paid to help people do that. She said, yes, where have you been? I'm like, well, in the corporate world, apparently. So I listened to her tell me about this whole definition of social worker, and all of a sudden, I feel a fire start up in my spirit, in my puku, in my belly. I start to feel fire. And this is a new sensation, like you. And she's like, you know, this is quite interesting because it's funny you should say that, because I'm actually going to an open day next week for this university, this Indigenous university that offers a degree in social work, a Bachelor of Social Work. My face is like, you said what now? And again, now there's like flames added to this situation in my belly. She's like, yeah, there's an open day at this place called Te Wānanga o Aotearoa. It's a bicultural degree in social work. Do you want to come? And I'm like, yes, I want to come. So the next week, I go down on my crutches and I gallop into that place and I sit in there and I'm surrounded by the most beautiful atmosphere, Māori staff and students, and the sound of my Indigenous language, which I am not familiar with, yet my heart knows it and every cell in my body seems to know it and is responding to it. I'm so emotional. Whoa. And I feel so loved by these people. I've never even met them. Why are these aunties and uncles so nice to me? What the heck? What is this culture? what the heck? Why are they feeding me? Excuse me, I came to an open day, and everyone's feeding me and singing around me, and I'm like, oh, what is this place? This is so beautiful. This feels like home, and I've never even been here before. Isn't that crazy? And already the Lord had walked me through the doors of my future, and I'm just starting to feel this sense of restoration on levels that I had never even known before. I walk in the door and I feel so engaged and loved and surrounded, and I know I'm in the right place. I know this place is exactly where I'm meant to be. And I sit there and I listen to them talk about this pathway, this Bachelor of Social Work with bicultural practice, which in Aotearoa in New Zealand means that it's an understanding of how Indigenous practices, Māori culture, our tikanga, it's just such a beautiful way of connecting and helping people to find their way forward to achieve their goals and their dreams. And also bringing in Western ways, Western models of practice. And so I began to see this and feel this and experience this. I go home and now I've got a decision to make. I've got a decision to make. Do I keep my well-paying job that pays my bills but is meaningless and pointless and leaves me feeling hollow and empty? Or do I become a poor student, somehow raising 2 children while doing assignments on things I don't even have any concept of yet? And I know what the answer is, but I got to make the brave decision and then take the brave jump. I know what the answer is. I can feel it. My spirit is alive. I'm on fire. I know what the answer is, but I still have to choose it. It took me a few days and I'm praying, God, what do you want me to do? Well, you already know what he wants you to do. The day I gave my resignation was the sweetest day. I felt all the pressure and heaviness and worry about returning to work come off me. It came off me instantly. And I knew, even though this made no sense at all, I'm going to be a poor student somehow with these 2 kids entering into a world I know nothing about. It was the right thing to do. So I said yes, and I went for it. The first year of my degree was transformational. It was so challenging and so beautiful. I cried so many tears that year. I mean, I'm learning these things to help other people, but they're helping me. I'm learning these history of my own land. Why didn't someone tell me about this? Well, I know now why they didn't, but the education system just wasn't equipping us to understand our own history, the good, the bad, and poof, the ugly. I'm learning all of this and I'm understanding why the world works the way it does and where there are opportunities to bring restoration and justice and life, literally helping people to get out of the situations they're in. The first year was so intense. During that year, I'm starting to talk to the Lord more. I'm starting to talk to Jesus more. I'm starting to go, okay, God, I'm going to make different decisions. I'm not going to be drinking, because in those contexts is where a lot of my ridiculous relationships start. So if I don't want those relationships, I need to not be in those places. To not be in those places, I need to not drink. I need to have my full faculties available to me. And so that began the journey of sobriety for me, of letting go, of unchoosing things that in the moment felt good, but in the whole, they were devastating and destructive to me and to my family. So in that first year in 2004, I began to let go of alcohol, drugs, smoking, different things, hanging out with certain people. My entire circle changed. And to be honest with you, it was lonely. Like, it was actually really lonely for the first year because I wasn't where all the excitement was. I was where I needed to be. I wasn't where all the lights and the fireworks were happening. I was where I needed to be for my journey. I wasn't where all the fun was and all the people. I was where I needed to be, and I had to be okay with it not being as exciting. I had to be okay with being lonely. I had to be okay with not having a lot of money. I had to be okay with no one being that interested in me. I had to be okay with no glitz and glamour. I had to be okay with a whole lot of things. That year was a year of unhooking and unbundling and disconnecting. And it was lonely and it was hard, but it was so worth it. It was absolutely worth it. It's kind of like, actually, if I think about it, it's like the journey. I just recently gave up drinking coffee, right? Now, I love coffee so much, but coffee doesn't always love me. And I'm trying to sleep better so that I can dream better and remember my dreams because there's so much spiritual intel in them. But in order to do that, I got to stop drinking coffee. I choose to stop drinking coffee. Now, when you give up coffee, it's not like all rosebuds and, it's not easy. Actually, there's a few days where it's actually really hard and a little bit emotional and you feel like you're just missing something. And there's like, this kind of feels lonely, actually, without you and your buddy coffee. And so it was like that, but so much more. Every day of those 365 days of that year was intense. But you know what happened? At the end of the year, I had a new circle of friends, a very small circle, but a new circle. I had a new relationship with Jesus that felt good. I felt good. I wasn't perfect, but I was not where I was, I wasn't where I wanted to be, but I wasn't where I was. And my kids were happier. They may have been like not had as much stuff. They didn't have as many toys. They didn't have as many, we didn't have as much money to go and do things, but I was happier. I was at peace. And therefore they were at peace. When I changed my life, it changed my children's life. Because it changed their life, because I saw them more at peace. Because I saw them more at peace, it just goes around in circles, right? So I knew I was moving in the right direction. My kids were happier. I was happier. I was learning. I was growing. I'd opened up a whole new world that I knew nothing about, but it was my world. It was Te Ao Māori. And so all of a sudden, I'm able to start learning my language. Oh, how much that meant to me. I'm able to start learning our songs. Oh, how beautiful they were. They are to me. I was able to understand our practices, our customs, our culture, and to feel accepted and included in it by a whole lot of people that I wasn't necessarily related to immediately, but they were family. The Lord gave those relationships to me to nurture me and grow me in an area that I just didn't even know I needed. And then my faith began to grow, and then my social circle began to grow, and then my emotions began to heal, and then all these things, like they just keep going, like one thing happens and then another and another, and they catalyze each other. Everything starts moving. So by the end of the year, they said to me, okay, look, you need to find a place where you can do like an internship. You need to find a place to do an internship, a placement. So this is a 4-year degree, and next year you have to be on placement somewhere. So you've got to do a certain number of hours every week at this place for however many weeks. And I was like, okay, God, where do you want me to go? Well, you already brought me here, so surely you're going to take me to some other place. Like, I was so full of faith. Where are we going to next? And so I just said to him, look, I don't want to be anywhere that's none of my business. I don't want to work for an organization as glitzy or as glamorous or as amazing or as well-known, well-renowned as they are. I don't care. I want to be in the place you have for me, and that's the only place I want to be. So I don't want 100 options. I want one option, your option. You show me, God. Where do you want me to be? Where do you want me to be? So every door that I could have had open to me shut for various reasons, and there was only one door. There was only one place that actually answered, and that was the Salvation Army, of all places. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but my own grandmother, my mother's mother, was born in a Salvation Army home for unmarried mothers way back in the 1920s, right? My own grandmother was in a Salvation Army home, was helped by Salvation Army people. Her mother was helped as a 16-year-old girl who was pregnant. And in those days, look, where are you going to go? So the Salvation Army helped. I personally didn't know that much about the Salvation Army. I really didn't. I knew about the secondhand shops, like the thrift stores. That's all I knew about them. And I didn't understand the reason that the thrift stores existed. I didn't know that they were actually to help pay for a vast range of social services and community services that I would then go on to spend 20 years of my life, connected to. So from 2005 to 2025, I served in the Salvation Army, and what an incredible adventure. So many moments that the Lord gave me the opportunity to be part of. And it started just by being a student on placement. Come and see what we do. Come and help out. And then it ended up being an invitation to, hey, you know what? We could really do with someone to help us set up a new community centre, a new service here in our community. And I'm like, I've only got 1 year of study up my sleeve, right? Like, I don't really know what I'm doing. That's okay. You know a bit, and we see your heart, so we just want to invite you to come and help us. And so I said, yeah, okay, cool. So I get this little office with a little desk and full range to try out some stuff. I don't know what I'm doing, no clue, but I feel your hand on my life, Lord. I feel the fire of God in my belly, and I'm going to do whatever you want me to do. I'm going to go wherever you want me to go. I'm so excited. I didn't really even think I have the skills or the experience or anything, but for some reason you brought me here. So here I am, ta-da. And that was 2005 with my kids, and they were only little. Now, they also said the people who ran the social service that I was going to start were also the pastors of the church. And they said to me, hey, we don't know if you have a community that you're part of, a faith community, but if you don't, you're welcome to come and join us. So I came along to be part of the Salvation Army in Upper Hutt, the Upper Hutt Corps. I was so different from the majority of the people that were there. It was definitely an older, whiter congregation. There were not a lot of single mums out there, and definitely not with my personality. And so I didn't know how it was going to go, but I trusted the Lord. And he said, this is the place I have for you. So I was like, okay, then I'm in. And they loved me, and they made room for me, and they loved my children, and they became a safe space to learn and grow and develop. And actually, if it had have been like a different church, a bigger church with a whole lot of younger people, those spaces probably would have been taken up with people far more talented than me. But because it was only a small congregation, there were lots of jobs that needed to be done. And so I got cross-trained in all kinds of things at a young age. And that's the beginning of my journey. There are so many stories that I'm going to share throughout the time of the podcast, but I guess I could summarize it by saying I started there in general social services and working with families and people who came out of prison and setting up, community meals and volunteer teams to do all sorts of amazing, beautiful things in the community there. I love the way the Lord leads you. Next minute, I'm setting up a brand new service for people coming out of prison. Supported accommodation, reintegration service. 3 of us that got to set that service up together and work with people coming out of all of the prisons in the lower North Island, help them to find accommodation, help them to reconnect with community and to achieve the dreams that they had. Then the Lord called me into full-time ministry. Oh my goodness, how I resisted that one. I really did not want to do that. And actually what it meant was getting rid of my everyday normal clothing, right? And going into uniform. Oh my gosh. So from 2009 until 2025, I wore uniform probably 6 days a week. You know what I'm saying? And so I went into Bible college for a couple of years. And when I came out of there, when I was ordained and commissioned as a Salvation Army officer, my first appointment was actually to the north to work in addictions with the people in the north in Whangarei. And in Northland, that was the place of my father's tribe, Ngāpuhi and Te Rarawa. So for the first time, I actually got to go and live in and near and around my tribal lands. It was so special. And just up the road was a place called Waitangi where a founding covenant was signed, a spiritual covenant, Māori, with the British Crown. That place, the signing place, was just up the road from where I was working. Around 2014, I moved to the Big Smoke to Auckland, and I got to work in headquarters, the regional headquarters, and spent a lot of time in Indigenous ministry, supporting all of our churches and all of our social services in that whole region. And that was amazing to support leaders to understand how do we connect with Indigenous whānau? How do we actually make space, not just for people to come and access our service, but actually to lead the service? What does that look like? What does it mean to have Māori leading our churches and our social services? And it was an amazing time. And you can imagine the kind of conversations that happen. I worked in emergency services as well, and in all kinds of just different parts of the Salvation Army. And then finally, in 2022, I moved to Rotorua. I was sent to Rotorua to pastor the church there. Yeah, leading the church and the social services there for 3.5 years. And then, after 20 long years of so many wonderful things and the occasional tricky thing, the Lord said, now it's time to come out. And I'd been waiting for him to do that. And over the past 12 months, I have traveled the world. I have lived in all kinds of different places. I'm currently speaking from Kansas, for goodness sakes. Kansas, in the Midwest of the United States of America. It's such an incredibly exciting time. And so I think about the fact that this little kid who used to read books about missionaries gets to be a missionary and hang out with missionaries and go to all of these different places in the earth to tell them about the love of Jesus, both from the reading of the scripture, but also from personal experience. I know what it is. I know what it is to experience the love of God. I know what it is to experience the grace of God. I know what it is to be healed by him, to be set free by him. And my heart is that people will know that freedom. People will know that peace. People will know that joy. Like, if you hang out with me for more than 5 minutes, you're going to find out that I have a whole sense of humor. Yeah, I love to laugh. Why? Because I'm legit filled with the joy of the Lord. Like, filled with it. Because there's all that other stuff made room. All that other stuff, the pain, the regret, the shame, the insecurities, all of those things, like God's been slowly but surely over years pushing that stuff out of my life, removing that stuff out of my life, healing me and making room for joy and peace and love and all of these good things. And I'd rather have those any day of the week. So when I look back at where I was and I compare it to where I am, I know that every brave choice that the Lord led me to make, every brave moment, every divine appointment he had, every place he brought me to where he asked me to be brave, to step forward and say yes to him, to say yes to his plan, to say yes to his purposes and to his calling, has led me on the adventure of a lifetime. Now, the good news is, this is the great news, I thought that 20 years was good. Oh my gosh, it just got even more epic. The last 12 months, I actually feel like the last 12 months has been even more amazing than all those 20 years put together. The last year has been wild, and I feel like I'm actually just getting started. Not to say that what happened in those 20 years wasn't important, because it was. That helped to shape me and make me who I am. The whole 48 years helped to shape me and make me who I am. But this moment right now is wildly exciting. And every single day, I seem to be having these divine appointments. I seem to be having these moments that lead to another moment that just would blow your mind. You're like, what? That happened? How did that happen? I know. It's so good. There's so much happening. Even I need to record it and write it down, because a new thing happens the next day and the next day and the next day. Out of all of this, I really just want to encourage people to lean in to what God is saying to them. That in those moments, the ordinary moments at the supermarket or at the hot pools or up the hill or up the mountain, the ordinary moments that you're in, God can take those ordinary things and do something so much more than you ever asked or imagined. He can do something so spectacular. In the sharing of my testimony, in some ways it's only a light touch. It's just a little bit of an introduction, just enough for you to know who you're listening to. Just enough for you to know I've lived an interesting life. Just enough for you to know I love people. Just enough for you to know I love the Lord. Just enough for you to know I love my family. And just enough for you to know that I want for you to have your own special moments, your own divine appointments, your own places of encounter, where you get to be part of what God's doing in the earth, where the sacred is waiting for you in the ordinary.
Thank you for joining me today, and may the Lord bless you and guide you into the next divine appointment. Hei kona, I'll see you next time.